Hey people, this is my first time posting on here, and honestly, I never thought I'd end up in this kind of situation. I guess I need some perspective, or maybe just a place to vent where people won't sugarcoat things. So here's the backdrop. My wife, let's call her Alyssa, and I have been married for 6 years. We've had our ups and downs, but I thought things were mostly stable. She can be moody and impulsive, like, she'll plan a weekend trip without telling me or randomly switch her career goals overnight, but I chalked it up to her free spirit energy. She's charismatic, insanely flirty, and always knows how to get what she wants. Anyway, we'd both been stressed lately. Work, life, routine, just the usual. So I suggested we take a break, book a nice beach resort in a quiet coastal town, and just unwind. She was surprisingly excited about it. Like, more excited than I expected. I remember thinking, maybe we really needed this. The place was beautiful. Small boutique resort, not super flashy but clean and cozy. There was a young receptionist, early 30s, maybe tall, tan, with that overgroomed look like he just walked off a travel influencer's page. Alyssa was playful with him from the jump. Complimenting his smile, asking his name too many times, joking that he should be a model. I was there the whole time. At first, I laughed it off. Alyssa flirts with waiters, Uber drivers, baristas, it's part of her personality. But on the third day, something just felt off. We were supposed to have a couple's massage in the afternoon, and Alyssa said she had a headache and wanted to rest in the room instead. Okay, fine. I went solo. After the massage, I was walking back to the room when I saw her. Or at least, I thought I saw her. Alyssa, in her flowy red beach cover-up, stepping into the staff entrance with the receptionist. It was quick. Like 2 seconds of visibility. They were walking fast, and I didn't catch much, but I know it was her. I waited. A minute. 5. 10. No one came out. That was the moment the pit in my stomach started growing. The moment the vacation stopped feeling like a getaway and more like a setup. I didn't say anything right then. I walked back to our room and she was already there, lounging in bed, pretending like she never moved. I asked her how her nap was. She smiled and said, dreamy. Something was way off. And I wasn't about to let it go. So after seeing Alyssa disappear behind the staff entrance with Mr. Beach Ken, that's what I started calling the receptionist in my head. I played it cool. Or at least I tried. She acted like nothing happened. Still had that smug little grin she always gets when she thinks she's outwitted someone. I asked her if she left the room while I was gone, and she said no, didn't even hesitate. Then came the kicker. She pulled me in for a kiss and said, "You smell like eucalyptus." The massage must have been amazing. And I just stood there, hugging her, trying not to lose it. Because now I knew she was lying. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her, listening to the waves and her fake soft breathing. She always does this thing when she's pretending to sleep, tiny, over-exaggerated exhales like she's in a Disney movie. It used to be cute. Now it felt like mockery. The next morning, I decided to dig. I'm not usually a snooper, but my gut wouldn't let it go. I waited until she went down to the beach for yoga, which I didn't even know she was into, and I checked her phone. She had her notifications off. Typical. But her gallery wasn't locked. There was a video. It was shaky and brief, like it had been taken accidentally, or maybe she forgot to delete it. It was her face, flushed and giggling, whispering, "Shoo, we're gonna get caught." Then it panned, just for a split second, to that same damn receptionist, shirtless, smiling, pulling her into a utility room. My blood turned to ice. I actually sat down on the bed and just stared at the screen, blinking like it would change. Like I'd misinterpreted it. But it was all there. The smirk. The betrayal. The thrill of secrecy. Everything. I couldn't even react. It was like my body shut down. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat. And then something in me snapped. Not in a flip-the-table way. More like, I'm done playing the fool. So I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. I needed the truth, but on my terms. And let me tell you what happened next. I never could have predicted it. Alright, so here I am, sitting on a hotel bed with undeniable proof in my hands, and instead of blowing up, I decide to play it cool. Why? Because I wanted to see how deep her rabbit hole of lies would go. I wasn't just hurt, I was curious. Morbidly curious. So when she came back from yoga, wearing a freshly applied layer of lip gloss and acting all peppy, I asked her how it went. "Oh my god, babe," she chirped, stretching dramatically like she was auditioning for a perfume ad. "That yoga instructor is incredible." She got all up in my hips. I feel so open. It took everything in me not to laugh or vomit. Because 1, there is no yoga class on the beach according to the hotel schedule, and 2, I'd just seen her open alright, but not to a yoga instructor. Still, I nodded, smiled, and suggested we get lunch together. Now here's where it gets wild. While we were sitting by the pool bar waiting for our food, the receptionist, Mr. Beach Ken, walked by and gave me a nod. Nothing special. Except Alyssa went completely still. Like a deer caught in high beams. For half a second. Then she turned to me and said, "That guy is weird. He's been staring at me since we got here. Total creep." Lie. And not a casual lie either. That was a cover my ass kind of lie. Which confirmed one thing, she knew I might suspect something. And now she was trying to get ahead of it. So I leaned into it. "Really?" I said, sipping my drink. I was thinking he seemed pretty chill. He actually helped me earlier when I got lost near the spa. Super nice guy. She blinked a little too long. Ha. Maybe he's just friendly then. Game on. For the rest of the day, I kept my cool. I let her lie. I let her spin her little story. I even suggested we do a couple's massage the next day. She said, "You're really feeling romantic lately." I love it. Inside? I was burning. But outside? I played the perfect husband. I was laying the groundwork for something much bigger than a fight. I was planning my revenge. So now I had a front row seat to the circus that was my marriage, and I wasn't about to walk out before the grand finale. I figured if Alyssa was going to keep playing dirty, I'd get my hands a little muddy too. The next morning, I went to the gym. In reality? I went to the front desk. I asked the receptionist, not Mr. Homewrecker, but an older lady named Lucia, if I could speak privately. I explained that I thought something was going on with my wife and the night receptionist. I expected awkwardness or denial. Instead, Lucia just gave me a tight, knowing nod. She asked, "Would you like to see the security footage from last night?" I almost choked. I hadn't even asked for that. But clearly, I wasn't the first husband to walk this path at this hotel. She brought me into a little room behind the lobby where they keep all the cameras running. We fast-forwarded to last night. There it was. 10:47 p.m. Alyssa sauntering into the back hallway. 10:49 p.m. Beach Ken following behind her, casually checking his phone, then slipping through the same door. 11:12 p.m. Alyssa walking out, fixing her hair. I felt sick. I thanked Lucia, tipped her $100, and left with shaking hands. It was real now. Confirmed. On camera. When I got back to the room, Alyssa was in the shower. Humming. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I waited. I let her get dressed. Then I told her I'd booked us a couple's massage for later that day and a romantic dinner afterward. She looked surprised. "Babe, that's sweet. You've been acting weird but, like, in a good way. You're not mad about how distant I've been lately." I stared her dead in the eye. "Nope. Just trying to make the most of this vacation." She beamed and kissed me on the cheek. I could smell him on her breath. That night, I didn't plan on confronting her. Not yet. I planned on something better, letting her dig the hole deeper. And trust me, she did. So the romantic dinner happened. Candles, ocean breeze, violin in the background, the whole overpriced vacation package. Alyssa was eating it up. You'd think she was actually in love with me. Laughing, touching my hand across the table, talking about maybe coming back next year. I was smiling, but my stomach was twisted in knots. Every word out of her mouth was a lie. Every fake little laugh, every flirtatious smile, it was just cover for the filth she was doing behind my back. With some dude whose job is literally checking guests in. After dinner, we walked on the beach. She wrapped her arm around mine and said, "I feel like we're getting back to us again." I wanted to ask, back to what? The version of us where you sneak off to bang hotel staff? But I just nodded and played along. When we got back to the room, she said she was tired and wanted to go to bed early. I pretended to take a shower, but really I was texting Lucia again. I asked if she could give me a printout or email of the security footage I saw earlier. She said she'd do me one better, she had stills she could give me in the morning. I didn't sleep much that night. I laid there next to Alyssa while she slept like a baby. Occasionally, she'd mumble in her sleep or roll over and cuddle into me. And every time she did, it took everything in me not to scream. The next morning, I picked up the envelope from Lucia. Still shots. Time stamped. Clear as day. Alyssa entering the hallway with Mr. Front Desk at 10:47 p.m. Him following. Her exiting alone. That was the final straw. No more playing nice. No more smiling through it. She came back from getting coffee and I was sitting on the bed, holding the envelope in my lap. She looked at it and asked, "What's that?" I smiled. "Why don't you take a look?" She opened it. Her face went pale. Like, truly pale. All the color drained from her face. She didn't even try to lie at first. Just stared at the pictures in stunned silence. Then she looked up and said the single dumbest thing I've ever heard. "It's not what it looks like." Classic. Unbelievable. I just stared at her after she dropped that line, "It's not what it looks like." You ever hear something so stupid it actually leaves you speechless for a second? That was me. Sitting there, jaw clenched, trying not to laugh and cry at the same time. I said, "Alyssa, these are time-stamped photos." You walked into the hallway with him. He followed. You left alone almost an hour later. What exactly is it supposed to look like? She blinked, eyes darting like a busted con artist. Okay. Fine. We talked, alright? He was helping me plan a surprise for you. I wanted to get a couple's massage for us. That's why I asked him to come with me. I stared at her, dead in the eye. In his hotel room? She didn't even blink. It was just the only private space. There's nowhere else on the property to talk without running into other guests. At this point, I was stunned by the sheer audacity. She was so committed to the lie that I almost admired it. Like watching a bad magician double down on a failed trick. "I have video," I lied, testing her. Her face shifted again. A twitch. Just enough for me to know the act was falling apart. "Video of what?" she whispered. "Of everything," I said. "I spoke to management. They gave me the footage. I know what you did." And just like that, the floodgates opened. She exploded. Not with an apology, oh no. Alyssa went full defense mode. "This is what I'm talking about. You're always checking up on me. Snooping. Controlling everything. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me instead of work, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." That hit me like a truck. She wasn't sorry. She was blaming me. For a second, I just sat there. The woman I gave everything to, my time, my love, my trust, was telling me it was my fault she slept with a random hotel receptionist. "You know what, Alyssa?" I said. "You've told so many lies I don't even think you know what the truth is anymore." She got up and grabbed her things like she was the one leaving me. Said she needed space. That was the last straw. I packed up and booked a separate room for the night. The marriage was over. I didn't know what was next. I just knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. That night in the new hotel room was one of the loneliest of my life. You'd think discovering infidelity would make you feel just anger, maybe even rage. But in reality, it was this heavy, drowning numbness. Like I'd been pushed underwater and couldn't figure out which way was up anymore. I kept replaying everything over and over in my head: our first trip to this exact resort 3 years ago, the inside jokes, the way she used to grab my hand in public like she was proud to be mine. And now, all of that felt counterfeit. Like I had been living in a movie where I thought I was the main character, but I was just a background extra in her story. My stomach twisted at the thought of Alyssa with him, some guy we didn't know 2 days ago. It wasn't even just the physical part, though yeah, that haunted me too, it was the emotional betrayal. She chose him, some random front desk dude, over the life we built. That hits different. I cried. Not gonna sugarcoat it. Curled up on the stiff hotel mattress, I let it out. Quiet sobs at first, then full-on grief. I didn't care about being manly or whatever. This was mourning. The death of the future I thought I had. And beneath the sadness? Anger. Not just at her, but at myself. I had seen the signs. The sudden interest in staying fit, the girls' nights that didn't add up, the constant phone tilted away thing. I chose not to ask questions. I wanted to believe in her more than I wanted to see the truth. That's what hurt most, how badly I wanted to be wrong. I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole identity had been pulled out from under me. Husband. Partner. Best friend. All of it reduced to the guy who got cheated on. But somewhere in those dark hours, something inside me started to shift. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was sheer emotional exhaustion. But I started to realize. This wasn't my shame to carry. She broke the vow. She lied. She threw away our marriage like it meant nothing. That wasn't on me. I deserved better. The morning after my emotional breakdown, I woke up with this weird sense of clarity. It was like my brain had finally flushed out all the denial and heartbreak overnight, and what was left was cold, sharp focus. I wasn't going to grovel. I wasn't going to fight for someone who'd already chosen a hotel receptionist over a husband who had given her everything. But I also wasn't just going to disappear quietly. No. If Alyssa wanted drama, she was going to get it. Step 1, I checked out of the new hotel and went back to the resort where we were originally staying. I told the front desk I'd accidentally left something valuable in the room, my wedding ring, which I had actually slipped into my bag the night before. Classic bait move. They gave me a spare key. And guess what I found when I walked in? Her suitcase. Still there. Clothes everywhere. Her phone charger still plugged into the wall. So unless the receptionist's place came with a complimentary wardrobe, I knew she was planning to sneak back in eventually. I left a note on the bed: "Don't worry, I took the liberty of checking you out of both the room and my life. Enjoy your local flavor. M." Then I went downstairs and asked to speak with the hotel manager. I explained, very politely, that one of their employees was involved in an inappropriate relationship with a guest. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I let the facts speak for themselves: receipts of spa appointments I'd booked for Alyssa that lined up exactly with times she was working out, messages from the hotel phone to her number, the eyewitness account of me seeing them enter the staff corridor together. And yes, I might have implied that I'd already spoken to a lawyer, whether I had or not is beside the point. By noon, I was sitting at the resort bar with a beer, watching the front desk manager escort her boy toy out of the lobby. He didn't even look back. Alyssa wasn't far behind, her sunglasses on, trying to play it cool, but I could tell by her flushed cheeks she was furious. Guess they didn't cover affair logistics in their little fling. She texted me later that day, "That was so immature. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I didn't respond. That night, I booked a flight home. Alone. And free. Flying home solo was weirdly therapeutic. I thought I'd feel humiliated or depressed watching all the happy couples holding hands and sharing neck pillows, but honestly, I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd finally stopped carrying a relationship that had been deadweight for way too long. When I got back, I immediately packed up Alyssa's stuff into boxes. I didn't throw it on the lawn or burn it in a rage-fueled bonfire, as tempting as that was. No, I left it all neatly packed in our garage with a simple note taped to the front. Your vacation's over. Come get your things. She showed up a few days later, acting like I was the irrational one. You're just mad because I wanted more excitement, she said. You were boring, Michael. You always wanted everything to be so safe. Right. Because stability, loyalty, and emotional maturity are so boring compared to shagging the receptionist behind a storage room door. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just handed her the keys to her car, told her the lease papers were ready to sign over to her name, and closed the garage door behind her. That was it. A few days later, her mother texted me. Her mother. Apparently, Alyssa had spun some wild sob story about how I abandoned her on vacation. I sent the woman one photo, the one I took of Alyssa's little note with a room key beside it, sitting next to the empty bed where I had found out everything. Never heard from her again. The craziest part? Her affair with the receptionist didn't even last a month. Word got back to me from a friend who still works at the resort. They broke up after the guy borrowed her credit card for an entire shopping spree. Karma works fast when you're dumb and impulsive. I, on the other hand, started therapy, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, and even signed up for a cooking class, something Alyssa always said was a waste of time. Turns out, I make a killer risotto. Looking back, it's insane how fast your whole life can change. 1 minute you're planning day trips with your wife, and the next you're standing alone in a hotel room holding a keycard to your own heartbreak. But here's what I learned, and I'm putting this out there for anyone who might be going through something similar. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. I ignored small red flags because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Don't gaslight yourself. People who lie don't care how much they damage you emotionally. Alyssa lied effortlessly. About texts. About where she was going. About what she wanted. And she always had an excuse. At some point, you realize you're not dealing with someone who's just confused, you're dealing with someone who's fundamentally dishonest. Closure is overrated. I never got a real apology. Just excuses and blame. The closure I needed didn't come from her, it came from taking action, setting boundaries, and refusing to let someone treat me like a backup plan. Your self-worth isn't defined by someone else's betrayal. Cheating says everything about them and nothing about you. If someone cheats, it's because of who they are, not because of what you lacked. Rebuilding is slow but worth it. I won't lie, some days still suck. But most days now? Peaceful. I sleep better. I laugh more. And I know that the next time I fall in love, I'll do it with someone who actually respects me. To anyone reading this who's stuck in the same kind of mess I was in, you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. And you're definitely not alone. Sometimes you've got to let the storm rip through before you can rebuild on solid ground. Thanks for sticking through this. Writing it out helped more than I thought it would.